Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be taking you on a journey through all the cybersecurity trends that we think are going to be shaping 2024. We're diving deep into this recent Korean language article that's got all the juicy insights. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right, so let's start with the big one that everyone's talking about. Artificial intelligence. It's everywhere these days, but is it really living up to the hype in cybersecurity?
AI is having a huge impact on cybersecurity. It's not just a buzzword. It's actually being used in both attack and defense strategies.
So it's not just about making things more efficient. We're talking about like a real shift in the balance of power.
Exactly. The article highlights a trend we're calling malicious AI. AI is giving attackers a whole new arsenal of weapons.
Okay, now you've got my attention. What kind of weapons are we talking about?
Well, take deepfakes, for example. These AI-generated videos are getting so realistic that they can convincingly impersonate anyone. You could get a video call from your CEO asking for sensitive information, but it's not actually your CEO.
That's, unsettling. We've all heard about deepfakes. But I thought that was still pretty futuristic stuff. Are they really being used in attacks right now?
Oh yeah, they absolutely are. And as these tools become more accessible, the threat is only going to grow. Studies have shown that a significant percentage of organizations have already reported deepfake attempts, and the techniques are getting more sophisticated, making them incredibly hard to detect.
So it's not just about protecting our data anymore. It's about verifying the authenticity of everything we see and hear online.
Exactly, and it goes beyond deepfakes. AI is also being used to supercharge phishing and vishing attacks. Remember those clunky phishing emails we used to get? The ones with the obvious typos and grammatical errors?
Oh, yeah, I used to just delete those without a second thought. But you're saying AI is changing that.
Absolutely. AI is crafting incredibly convincing phishing messages. They're tailored to specific individuals using language and context that makes them appear legitimate. It's making it much harder for even savvy users to spot the fakes.
So what you're saying is AI is raising the stakes on both sides of the cybersecurity battle.
Precisely. It's like an arms race, with both attackers and defenders leveraging AI to gain an edge.
Okay, so we've got the bad guys using AI to launch more sophisticated attacks. But the good guys are fighting back, right? What's happening on the defensive side?
That's where benevolent AI comes in. Security teams are harnessing the power of AI to level the playing field. One way they're doing this is by using AI as a co-pilot for human analysts.
A co-pilot.
Yeah.
So AI is like the trusty sidekick, helping security professionals do their jobs better.
Exactly. Think of AI as a tireless assistant that can analyze vast amounts of data, identify patterns, and flag potential threats. Large language models, or LLMs, which are the brains behind chatbots and other AI applications, are playing a big role here.
So instead of human analysts sifting through mountains of data, they've got an AI doing the heavy lifting.
Exactly. LLMs excel at processing and understanding complex data, which is incredibly valuable in cybersecurity. They can help analysts quickly identify the most critical threats, freeing them up to focus on strategic decision-making and complex problem-solving.
It sounds like AI is taking on the role of the tireless sentinel, constantly watching for signs of trouble.
That's a great way to put it, and it goes beyond just analysis. We're starting to see the emergence of autonomous SOC agents, AI systems that can actually take action to neutralize threats.
Wait, so we're talking about AI that can not only detect threats, but also respond to them automatically.
It's still early days.
Yeah.
But companies like Dropzone.ai and Salem Cyber are already developing these kinds of autonomous agents. Imagine an AI system that can investigate an alert, quarantine a suspicious device, or even patch a vulnerability, all without human intervention.
Okay, now that's what I call next-level cybersecurity. It sounds like AI is fundamentally changing the way we approach defense.
Absolutely. And it's not just about fancy technology. AI can also play a critical role in addressing the cybersecurity skills gap, which continues to be a major challenge.
The talent shortage. I feel like that's been a perennial problem in cybersecurity.
It has been. According to cyberseek.org, there are currently nearly 470,000 unfilled cybersecurity positions in the U.S. alone. And filling those roles takes significantly longer than other IT jobs, reflecting the intense competition for talent.
So even with AI stepping in to help, we're still struggling to find enough qualified people to fill these roles.
Exactly. The demand for cybersecurity expertise is simply outpacing the supply. And this has real consequences. The World Economic Forum's Global Cybersecurity Outlook for 2024 found that over a third of organizations see staffing shortages as their biggest obstacle to achieving their cybersecurity goals.
So it's not just about falling behind, it's about organizations being vulnerable to attacks because they simply don't have enough people on the front lines.
Precisely. And studies show that a majority of organizations believe this talent shortage is putting them at moderate to extreme risk.
Okay, so AI is shaking things up on both sides of the cybersecurity battlefield. What other trends are we seeing in this rapidly evolving landscape?
Well, while AI is definitely a rising star,
Yeah.
there's another trend that's actually on the decline, the tool glut.
The tool glut. Now, that's something I think every security professional can relate to.
It's that feeling of being overwhelmed by the sheer number of security tools we have to juggle. The IDC report we have dives into this, and it doesn't paint a pretty picture. Tool sprawl can actually hinder your ability to identify and respond to threats effectively.
That makes sense. If you've got a dozen different tools all generating alerts, it's like trying to drink from a fire hose. You're bound to miss something important.
Exactly. And it slows down incident response times. Trying to correlate information from a bunch of different tools, each with its own interface and reporting format, is incredibly inefficient.
Not to mention expensive. I can only imagine the cost of maintaining all those tools, not to mention the training and integration headaches.
You're hitting all the key points. Tool sprawl leads to increased costs, complexity, and ultimately reduced effectiveness.
So is the answer to just ditch all our tools and start from scratch?
Not quite.
Huh.
The good news is that the trend is shifting away from this chaotic approach and towards consolidation and platform solutions. Organizations are realizing that having a few well-integrated tools is far better than a jumbled mess of overlapping solutions.
So it's about quality over quantity. Choosing the right tools that work together seamlessly, rather than just piling on more and more.
That's the idea. Chris Kissel, VP at IDC, put it well when he warned against accumulating technical debt by clinging to too many tools. He emphasizes the need for integration to avoid being overwhelmed by the sheer volume of security data.
It's like having a well-organized toolbox versus a chaotic jumble of random tools. You want to be able to quickly find the right tool for the job without having to dig through a pile of clutter.
Exactly. Consolidation not only reduces costs and complexity, it also improves security operations efficiency and makes it easier to manage policies.
It sounds like the cybersecurity world is realizing that sometimes less is more.
Indeed, it's about finding solutions that can provide comprehensive visibility and control over your entire security posture.
So we've got AI shaking things up and a move towards simplifying our security toolkit. What else is on the horizon for cybersecurity in 2024?
Well, one trend that continues to be a major concern is the cybersecurity talent crunch.
Yeah, that's one that never seems to go away.
And it's not getting any easier.
Huh.
As we've discussed, there are hundreds of thousands of unfilled cybersecurity positions, and it takes much longer to fill those roles compared to other IT jobs.
It's a real challenge, and it's not just a numbers game. It's also about finding people with the right skills and experience. You can't just plug anyone into a cybersecurity role and expect them to be effective.
Exactly. And the impact of this shortage is far-reaching. Studies show that a majority of organizations believe it's putting them at risk. Even if you have the best technology and strategies in place, it's all for naught if you don't have the skilled people to manage and implement them.
So this talent shortage is a ticking time bomb for a lot of organizations.
It can be. And it's a problem that's not going away anytime soon. Experts are predicting that the gap between supply and demand will only continue to widen, particularly in the public sector.
So what can organizations do to address this talent crunch? Is it just a matter of offering higher salaries?
While competitive salaries are important, it's not just about throwing money at the problem. Organizations need to be more creative. They need to invest in training and development programs to upskill their existing workforce. They need to explore alternative talent pools, such as veterans and career changers. And they need to promote cybersecurity as a rewarding and fulfilling career path, highlighting the positive impact it can have on society.
It sounds like a multifaceted approach is needed to tackle this complex issue.
Absolutely. There's no single solution. It requires a commitment to long-term investment in human capital and a recognition that cybersecurity is not just an IT issue. It's a strategic imperative for any organization that wants to thrive in the digital age.
Okay, so we've covered AI, the trend towards tool consolidation, and the persistent talent shortage. What other trends are we seeing in the cybersecurity landscape?
Well, one area that's seeing a lot of activity is mergers and acquisitions.
Oh, yeah. M&A deals always shake things up in any industry. What's been happening in the cybersecurity world?
There have been some pretty significant deals lately. One that really made headlines was Cisco acquiring Splunk for a whopping $28 billion. That's a massive investment, and it shows you just how much value is being placed on cybersecurity these days.
$28 billion. Wow, that's a serious chunk of change. Makes you wonder if this is the start of a wave of consolidation or just a few outliers.
A good question. There have been other notable deals as well. Broadcom has been busy merging Symantec and Carbon Black, and IBM has sold its Curate RCM to Palo Alto Networks.
Those are some big names in the cybersecurity world. And it's not just the giants making moves. We've also seen CyberArk acquiring Venafi, combining their expertise in privileged access management and machine identity protection. Logarithm and Exabeam are joining forces. And companies like CrowdStrike, Cohesity, SonicWall, and Akamai have all made strategic acquisitions. Even HPE is getting in on the action, acquiring Juniper Networks, which signals a trend towards building broader platforms with security as a core component.
It's definitely a dynamic landscape. All this consolidation is creating new power dynamics and shifting alliances within the industry.
So what does all this mean for CISOs and security leaders? What should they be paying attention to?
They need to be thinking about how these newly integrated toolsets will impact their security operations. They need to understand the changes in oversight structures and be prepared to adapt to new vendor strategies.
It sounds like a lot to keep track of.
It is, but it also highlights the importance of staying flexible and adaptable in the face of constant change. In cybersecurity, that's the only constant.
So we've got AI on the rise, a shift towards consolidation, a persistent talent shortage, and a wave of mergers and acquisitions. What other major trends are shaping cybersecurity in 2024?
Well, there's one that's really changing the way we think about security altogether, the breaking down of silos.
Ah, the silos. Those infamous barriers that separate security teams from the rest of the organization. It seems like we're finally starting to move beyond that old model.
Indeed. Security is becoming increasingly integrated into the fabric of business, and several movements are driving this shift. One is the shift left movement, which emphasizes integrating security into the software development process.
This is where DevSecOps comes in, right? Bringing developers, security professionals, and operations teams together from the get-go.
Exactly. The idea is to build security into applications from the very beginning, rather than treating it as an afterthought. And it's gaining traction. Studies show that over half of organizations are now using DevSecOps, driven by a desire for improved security.
It makes sense. Why wait until an application is deployed to start thinking about security? It's much more effective to address vulnerabilities early in the development cycle.
Absolutely. And this convergence of security and development is just one example. We're also seeing a convergence of security and networking with the rise of Secure Access Service Edge, or SaaS.
SaaS, that's another one of those buzzwords we keep hearing. Can you break it down for us?
SaaS combines a whole bunch of security and networking technologies, things like SD-WAN, firewalls, zero trust, and more, into a single cloud-delivered platform.
It's about simplifying network security and making it easier to manage.
So it's like a one-stop shop for all your network security needs, and it's delivered from the cloud, so you don't have to worry about managing all those separate appliances.
Precisely. And it's gaining traction. Industry analysts predict that the majority of new SD-WAN purchases will be part of SaaS solutions within the next few years.
That's a pretty clear sign that SaaS is becoming the go-to approach for network security. It is. And it all points to this broader trend of security becoming more holistic and integrated. It's no longer just the responsibility of a dedicated security team tucked away in a corner.
Right. It's about breaking down those silos and making security a shared responsibility across the entire organization.
Exactly. It involves collaboration between business and security teams, engagement with legal and risk management, and even board-level representation. Security is everyone's business now.
Well said. It seems like the days of security being an isolated function are coming to an end.
Indeed. It's becoming an integral part of the organizational DNA.
Okay, so we've got AI, the decline of tool sprawl, the talent crunch, all this M&A activity, and the breaking down of silos. Anything else we should add to our list of cybersecurity trends for 2024?
Well, there's one more that's particularly concerning, the rise of extortion.
Extortion, that sounds ominous. Is it like ransomware, but even worse?
In a way, yes. While ransomware focuses on locking up your data and demanding payment to unlock it, extortion takes a different approach. It threatens to expose sensitive or embarrassing information, often without even needing to steal the data.
Wait, how is that possible? How can they extort you without actually having your data?
This is where generative AI comes into play. With AI, it's becoming increasingly easy to fabricate realistic images, videos, or audio. So even if they haven't actually breached your systems, they can create convincing forgeries to use as leverage.
Oh, wow. That's devious. So they could threaten to release fake videos or documents that could damage your reputation, even if those things never actually existed.
Exactly. And the scary part is that it's becoming harder to distinguish real content from AI-generated fakes.
So it's not just about protecting our data anymore. It's also about protecting our reputation, our brand, our online presence.
Absolutely. And the Verizon data breach report found that extortion is already a factor in a significant percentage of breaches. As generative AI becomes more sophisticated, this number is only going to grow.
It sounds like a nightmare scenario for any organization. What can they do to protect themselves from these extortion attempts?
Well, as with many cyber threats, prevention is key. Robust data protection measures are crucial, as are strong anti-phishing policies and procedures.
Yeah.
But it also goes beyond that. You need robust detection and response capabilities to identify and neutralize attacks early on.
So it's not just about building walls, it's about having a rapid response team that can act swiftly if a breach does occur.
Exactly. And it's crucial to have a plan in place for how to respond to extortion attempts, including involving law enforcement if necessary.
It sounds like organizations need to be thinking about this threat proactively, not waiting until it's too late.
Absolutely. Extortion is a serious issue, and organizations need to be prepared.
Okay, so we've got AI, the decline of tool sprawl, the talent crunch, the M&A frenzy, the breaking down of silos, and the rise of extortion. Is there anything else we're missing in our deep dive into cybersecurity trends for 2024?
Well, there's one more area that's becoming increasingly vulnerable, the Internet of Things, or IoT.
Ah, the IoT. It seems like everything is connected these days, from our refrigerators to our cars. What are the cybersecurity implications of this interconnected world?
Well, while the IoT offers incredible benefits for businesses, it also expands the attack surface significantly. Every connected device represents a potential entry point for hackers.
So the more devices you have connected to your network, the more doors you're leaving open for attackers.
Exactly. And a Forrester survey found that IoT systems are the top target for external attackers, accounting for nearly a third of attacks.
Wow, so more than 1 in 3 attacks are targeting IoT devices. That's a pretty alarming statistic.
That's right. And here's another thing to consider. Old threats, like the Mirai botnet, are being repurposed to target IoT devices, particularly in sectors like healthcare and manufacturing.
Wait, Mirai, isn't that the botnet that caused those massive internet outages a few years back?
That's the one. And it's back with a vengeance, targeting IoT devices that are often poorly secured.
It seems like the IoT is a bit of a wild west when it comes to security. But are there solutions emerging to help organizations get a handle on this?
There are. Companies like Psycognito, Simulate, and Forescout offer tools that can help organizations discover and assess their IoT devices. It's like taking inventory of all the connected devices on your network so you know what you're dealing with.
Okay, so step 1 is knowing what you've got. What's next?
Once you have visibility into your IoT ecosystem, you can start to implement appropriate security controls. Companies like Keyfactor, Thales Group, and Utamako provide solutions for securely managing identities and access for IoT devices.
So it's all about controlling which devices can access your network and what they're allowed to do, just like with traditional IT systems.
Exactly. It's about applying the same security principles to the world of IoT, recognizing that these devices are just as vulnerable as any other endpoint on your network.
It sounds like there's a lot to consider when it comes to securing the IoT. It's definitely an area that requires careful attention and proactive measures. But thinking back on all the trends we've discussed today, one thing that strikes me is how interconnected they all are.
You're absolutely right. They're not isolated phenomena. They're all part of a larger tapestry, influencing and shaping each other.
Exactly. Take the cybersecurity talent crunch, for example. It's not happening in a vacuum.
It's a symptom of a perfect storm brewing in the cybersecurity world.
Right. The rapid adoption of AI, the increasing sophistication of attacks, the sheer volume of data we're dealing with, basically. All of these factors are contributing to a demand for skilled cybersecurity professionals that's far outpacing the supply.
It's a classic case of supply and demand, but with much higher stakes. As the cybersecurity landscape becomes more complex and the threats more advanced, the need for expertise grows exponentially.
And then you add in the M&A activity we were talking about, these big companies gobbling up smaller security firms. That's got to be intensifying the competition for talent even further.
Absolutely. It's creating a very competitive market for cybersecurity professionals. Companies are vying for top talent, offering lucrative salaries and benefits to attract the best minds in the field.
And it's not just the private sector feeling the pressure. Governments and public institutions are also struggling to attract and retain skilled cybersecurity personnel.
That's right. Cybersecurity is now a national security issue, and governments are waking up to the need to invest in building a robust cyber workforce. The challenge lies in attracting talent to the public sector, which often faces budget constraints and may not be able to compete with the private sector's compensation packages.
It's a tough situation, but it highlights just how critical this issue is. And it's not just about throwing money at the problem. It's about creating a culture that values cybersecurity, providing opportunities for training and development, and recognizing the importance of this profession.
Well said. We need to inspire the next generation of cybersecurity professionals, and that requires a shift in perception. We need to showcase the exciting challenges and opportunities that a career in cybersecurity offers, and make it a field that people aspire to join.
Now, another trend that I find both exciting and a little daunting is the breaking down of silos.
Ah, yes, the demise of the isolated security department. It's a trend that holds immense promise, but it also comes with its own set of challenges.
It's exciting because it means that security is finally being recognized as everyone's responsibility, not just the domain of a specialized team tucked away in a corner. But it's also daunting because it means that everyone, from developers to executives to everyday users, needs to be more security aware.
It's a fundamental cultural shift, and it requires a change in mindset across the entire organization. It's no longer enough to rely on a few security experts to protect the fort. Everyone needs to be on board.
Understanding the risks.
And taking ownership of their role in securing the organization's assets.
Exactly. It's not just about having strong perimeter defenses. It's about embedding security into every aspect of the business. From how software is designed and developed to how data is accessed and used.
It's about shifting from a reactive approach to a proactive one. Instead of waiting for attacks to happen and then scrambling to respond, organizations need to be anticipating threats, building resilience into their systems, and empowering everyone to be part of the solution.
And this is where concepts like DevSecOps and SOS really come into play, right? They're not just about implementing new technologies. They're about fundamentally changing the way we approach security.
You've hit the nail on the head. DevSecOps, for example, is about integrating security into the software development lifecycle from the get-go. It's about fostering collaboration between developers, security professionals, and operations teams to ensure that security is built into every stage of the process.
It's like we're moving toward this security by design philosophy, where
Yeah.
security is baked into the very DNA of everything we do in the digital realm.
And that's a crucial evolution. It means that security is no longer an afterthought or something that gets bolted on at the end. It's a core consideration from the very beginning, influencing design choices, development practices, and operational procedures.
It sounds like the cybersecurity landscape is undergoing a pretty significant transformation, driven by these interconnected trends we've been discussing.
It is, and those who are willing to adapt and innovate will be the ones who not only survive, but thrive in this new era of cybersecurity.
Absolutely. Now, before we move on, I want to circle back to one trend that we touched on earlier, the rise of extortion. It's such a chilling tactic. And with the advancements in generative AI, it seems like it's only going to become more prevalent.
It's a deeply concerning trend, and one that organizations need to be prepared to address.
You mentioned earlier how these attackers are leveraging AI to create incredibly convincing forgeries.
Yeah.
Emails, documents, videos, even audio recordings. It's almost like they can manipulate reality itself, creating a false narrative that can be used for blackmail.
It's a digital puppeteer's dream. And what makes this threat even more insidious is that it preys on fear and reputational damage. It's not just about losing data anymore. It's about the potential harm to your brand, your relationships, your credibility.
And it's not just high-profile individuals or organizations being targeted. Anyone can be a victim of extortion.
Exactly. And this is where things get tricky. In the past, we might have been able to dismiss a suspicious email or document as a clumsy forgery. But with AI, these fakes are becoming increasingly sophisticated, making it harder to distinguish real from fake.
It's like we're entering an era of information warfare, where the very fabric of truth is being manipulated and exploited.
In a way, yes. It's a wake-up call for all of us to be more vigilant, more skeptical, and more aware of the tactics that attackers are using. We can't just blindly trust what we see and hear online anymore. We need to develop a critical eye and learn to verify information from multiple sources.
So what can individuals and organizations do to mitigate this threat? What are some practical steps they can take to protect themselves?
Well, it all starts with good security hygiene. It sounds basic. But it's more important than ever. Keep your software up to date. Use strong, unique passwords for each of your accounts. And be wary of phishing attempts.
Those are the cybersecurity fundamentals that we've all heard before, but they're essential in this age of sophisticated AI-powered attacks.
Absolutely. And it goes beyond individual behavior. Organizations need to have clear policies and procedures in place for data protection, incident response, and communication.
It's like having a playbook for how to respond if a cyber incident, including an extortion attempt, occurs.
Exactly. You need to know who to contact, what steps to take, and how to communicate with stakeholders. And in cases of extortion, it's often advisable to involve law enforcement.
So don't try to go it alone. There are professionals who can help you navigate this complex situation and protect your interests.
Exactly. And remember, prevention is always the best defense. By taking proactive steps to secure your systems, educate your employees, and develop a robust incident response plan, you can significantly reduce the risk of becoming a victim of extortion.
So it's a multi-layered approach, combining technical safeguards with human awareness and a well-rehearsed plan of action.
That's the key. And it's an ongoing process. As the threat landscape continues to evolve, organizations need to stay informed, stay vigilant, and adapt their defenses accordingly.
It's that constant game of cat and mouse again, with both sides trying to outmaneuver each other. But that brings us to another key takeaway from our discussion today, the importance of people and processes.
You're right. Technology is a crucial part of the equation, but it's only one piece of the puzzle. Cybersecurity is not just about tools and techniques. It's about having the right people in place and fostering a security culture that permeates the entire organization.
It's about empowering employees to be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that security is everyone's responsibility, from the C-suite to the front lines.
So it's not just about implementing the latest security gadgets or hiring a team of experts. It's about creating a culture where security is embedded into every aspect of the organization's operations.
Precisely. It's about building a mindset where security is not seen as a burden or an obstacle, but as an enabler of innovation and growth.
Well said. And as we continue our deep dive into the cybersecurity trends shaping 2024, let's shift our focus back to the Internet of Things. We were talking earlier about how the proliferation of connected devices is expanding the attack surface and creating new vulnerabilities for hackers to exploit.
It's a fascinating and rapidly evolving landscape, full of both promise and peril.
Exactly. On one hand, the IoT offers incredible potential for innovation and efficiency, connecting our physical world to the digital realm in ways that were unimaginable just a few years ago. But on the other hand, it presents significant security challenges that we need to address proactively.
It's like opening up a new frontier. With all the excitement and risks that come with uncharted territory, we're still figuring out how to secure this vast and interconnected ecosystem. And the stakes are incredibly high.
Right. And as we've seen with other emerging technologies, security often lags behind innovation. It's like we're constantly playing catch-up, trying to secure these devices after they've already been deployed and connected to our networks.
That's often the case, unfortunately. But the good news is that awareness of IoT security risks is growing. And there are solutions emerging to help organizations secure their IoT deployments.
Okay, tell me more about those solutions. What are some of the key things that organizations should be doing to secure their IoT devices?
Well, one of the most crucial steps is simply taking inventory of all the connected devices on your network. You can't secure what you don't know exists.
So it's like conducting a digital audit of your IoT ecosystem, identifying every device that's connected to your network and what its role is.
Exactly. Once you know what devices you have, you need to assess their security posture. Are they running the latest software? Do they have strong, unique passwords? Are they properly configured?
It's about applying the same security principles we use for traditional IT systems to the world of IoT. But given the sheer number and diversity of IoT devices, this can be a daunting task.
It can be. But there are tools available to help organizations with this process. Companies like Psychognito, Simulate, and Forescout offer solutions that can discover and assess IoT devices, identifying vulnerabilities and providing recommendations for remediation.
That's encouraging. It sounds like organizations aren't being left to fend for themselves in this wild west of IoT security.
Not at all. There's a growing ecosystem of vendors and service providers offering solutions to help organizations manage and secure their IoT deployments.
Okay, so we've got inventory and assessment covered. What else can organizations do to strengthen their IoT security posture?
Well, once you know what devices you have and what their vulnerabilities are, you need to implement appropriate security controls. This could include network segmentation, separating your IoT devices from your critical systems, so that if one device is compromised, it doesn't give attackers access to your entire network. Secure authentication. Implementing strong authentication mechanisms to prevent unauthorized access to your IoT devices. This could involve using multi-factor authentication or digital certificates. Regular patching and updates. Keeping your IoT devices up to date with the latest security patches to address known vulnerabilities. Data encryption. Encrypting sensitive data that is transmitted to and from your IoT devices to protect it from interception. Monitoring and detection. Implementing monitoring and detection tools to identify suspicious activity on your IoT network and alert security teams to potential threats.
So it's a multi-layered approach, combining technical controls with organizational policies and procedures, much like what we discussed for extortion.
Exactly. It's about having a holistic security strategy that addresses the unique challenges of the IoT, and it's an ongoing process. As the IoT landscape continues to evolve, so too will the threats and vulnerabilities. Organizations need to stay informed, stay vigilant, and continually adapt their security measures.
It's that constant game of cat and mouse again, with both sides trying to outmaneuver each other. But it also highlights the importance of human awareness and expertise in the world of IoT security.
You're right. Technology can only take us so far. Ultimately, it's people who are responsible for making decisions about how to secure these devices, how to respond to incidents, and how to adapt to the ever-changing threat landscape.
It's about fostering a security culture that extends to every corner of the organization, including the world of connected devices.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that security is not just an IT issue, it's a business issue, a societal issue, and increasingly a matter of personal safety as the lines between the physical and digital worlds continue to blur.
Yeah, it really is. It brings to mind one of the key insights we've been exploring today, the blurring lines between the physical and digital worlds. That has some serious implications for how we approach security, doesn't it?
It does. It's no longer enough to just think about protecting our computers and networks. We need to think about security in a more holistic way, recognizing that our physical and digital lives are becoming increasingly intertwined.
Think about the Internet of Things, for instance. We're connecting everything these days, homes, cars, entire cities. And each connection creates a new vulnerability, a new way for attackers to potentially disrupt not just our data, but our physical world as well.
Exactly. A security breach in a smart home device could have physical consequences, like turning off your heating in the middle of winter. A vulnerability in a connected car could put lives at risk. We're moving beyond data breaches and into a realm where cyber attacks can have a very real impact on our physical safety and well-being.
It sounds like cybersecurity is becoming as much a matter of public safety as it is about protecting information.
In many ways, it already is. Our critical infrastructure, power grids, healthcare systems, transportation networks, is increasingly reliant on technology, which makes it vulnerable to cyber attacks. A major attack could have devastating consequences, disrupting essential services and potentially even causing physical harm.
It's a sobering thought. Cybersecurity isn't just an IT issue anymore, it's a societal issue, with far-reaching implications for our safety, our economy, and our way of life.
Precisely. And it's going to require a collective effort to address this challenge effectively. We need individuals to be aware of the risks and take precautions. We need organizations to prioritize security and invest in robust defenses. And we need governments to create policies and regulations that promote cybersecurity and hold those who engage in malicious activities accountable.
It sounds like we need a whole-of-society approach to cybersecurity, where everyone recognizes the importance of playing their part.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're all in this together. And it's only by working collaboratively, sharing information, developing best practices, and supporting each other that we can create a more secure and resilient digital world.
Well said. So for our listeners who are ready to take action, what are some practical things they can do to enhance their own cybersecurity posture?
Here are a few key things to keep in mind. Be password savvy. Use strong, unique passwords for all of your online accounts, and consider using a password manager to help you keep track of them. Stay updated. Keep your software and operating systems up to date with the latest security patches. This helps to close known vulnerabilities that attackers could exploit. Think before you click. Be cautious about clicking on links or opening attachments and emails from unknown senders. This is a common way for attackers to spread malware. Enable two-factor authentication. Whenever possible, enable two-factor authentication for your online accounts. This adds an extra layer of security by requiring you to enter a code from your phone or email in addition to your password. Be social media smart. Be mindful of what you share on social media. Attackers can use information you post online to target you with phishing attacks or social engineering scams.
These are all great tips, and they highlight the fact that cybersecurity isn't just about technology, it's about behavior. It's about making smart choices and developing good habits that reduce your risk of becoming a victim of a cyber attack.
Absolutely. And it's an ongoing process. The threat landscape is constantly evolving, so we need to stay informed and adapt our behaviors accordingly.
Right. It's about staying vigilant, staying curious,
Yeah,
and staying one step ahead of those who are trying to do us harm.
exactly. And remember, there are resources available to help you along the way. Don't be afraid to reach out to security professionals. Consult reputable sources of information, and join online communities where you can learn from others and share your experiences.
Well said. Cybersecurity is a journey, not a destination. And we're all in this together, learning, adapting, and supporting each other along the way.
It's a shared responsibility, and one that we should embrace with both seriousness and a sense of purpose.
Well, folks, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into cybersecurity trends for 2024. We've covered a lot of ground today, exploring the forces that are shaping this dynamic and ever-evolving field. We've discussed everything from the rise of artificial intelligence to the decline of tool sprawl, from the ongoing talent crunch to the emergence of new threats like extortion, and the growing vulnerabilities of the Internet of Things.
It's been a fascinating and thought-provoking discussion, highlighting both the challenges and the incredible opportunities that lie ahead.
Absolutely. And for you listening out there, we hope this deep dive has provided you with valuable insights and actionable takeaways that you can apply in your own lives and organizations.
Remember, cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility. By staying informed, staying vigilant, and working together, we can create a more secure and resilient digital world for all.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and keep exploring.